Hey guys, Missy T here. Just wanted to shoot a short video to help you out on being able to change some things that might be happening in your life. Because a lot of us feel like we get to a point and we get stuck, and the reason we get stuck is because we have a word that gets thrown around a lot is called a paradigm. Paradigms run our lives, and all a paradigm is a multitude of habits, and we are run by paradigms, and we have paradigms about a lot of different things. We have paradigms about what time we get out of bed, about what time we show up to work. If you go to a job, you see people who are early to show up to work, and you see people who are constantly 3 or 4 or 5 minutes late coming into work. Some of them are 10 or 15 minutes late every day. They get called into the boss's office, told if you're late one more time, you're going to get written up. And they say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I will do better." And they do better for 3 or 4 days, and then they start being late again. And it's because they are programmed to run late. And why do they continue to run late even after being threatened with a write up? And it's because they are programmed to run late. That's their habitual behavior. So if you have things going on in your life and you have habits in your life that you're trying to change, you want a different result. Okay. The only way you're going to get a different result is by changing your actions. And the only way you're going to change your actions is by changing your habits and by changing your thoughts and by changing your feelings. So you have to be very intentional about doing this. You have to decide who you're going to be. So before you are able to get something, it's be, and then you do, and then you have. So it's who are you going to be? So you need to decide who is that person who would have what it is that you want to have. Okay, that's the first step. Now, if the person who is going to have what it is you want to have is not the person that you are right now, then what you're going to need to do is create a new paradigm. You're going to need to create a new identity. And that person, going to need to live as that person from the end. How does that person dress? How does that person act? How does that person treat their finances? How does that person treat their relationships? So when you start trying to change your old paradigm, and your ego do not like change at all. So that's going to try and drag you back. So the question is, how do you stay persistent when you're trying to change your paradigm? And when you're working on this, it's important that you understand where your paradigm came from. So we are conditioned genetically and we're conditioned environmentally. And as a baby, when you're born, a lot of your conditioning is genetic. You grew up liking the foods that your parents liked. You had no choice about it. That was the food that you were given. You grew up looking like your relatives. Okay, that's also part of genetic conditioning. Your belief systems, believe it or not, were actually programmed inside of you before you were born. Now, that went into your subconscious. Now, you've also got environmental conditioning. So by the time you started thinking for yourself, the die was already cast. Okay, your prejudices, your likes and your dislikes, the way you dress, the way you treat people, those were things that were passed down, things that you grew up with in your household. Okay. So, when you try and change things that you were conditioned with by the time you were, just a small child, is very, very difficult because those things are ingrained in you. So it again, it doesn't matter like how well you did in school. It's the paradigm that controls your behavior. And this was one of the things that my mentor Bob Proctor would say over and over and over again, was that he knew people who had letters coming right off the end of their business card that were not doing well in life. And one day I realized, oh my gosh, I'm one of those people. I had graduate degrees, but in some people's eyes, I was winning, but by my standards, I wasn't winning because I was on a vicious cycle. I would have success and then I would slide back again. And then I would have success and then I would slide back again. And I couldn't figure out why this was happening to me. And it's because of the paradigm. And I was trying to change my paradigm instead of building a new paradigm. So, like I said, it doesn't matter how well I did in school. I was a fantastic student, not so much in high school. Any of my high school people will remember, not so much in high school, but in college, I actually really applied myself and I wanted to be a good student. I wanted to learn. But, out in the real world, your paradigm is really controlling your behavior. So when it came to business and sales and actually doing the things that I was supposed to do, I would do it and I would, make some really good money and then I would get comfortable and come to find out, listening to Bob talk about this, he would go into a vice president of sales office and say, maybe it's July, give me your two best salespeople, tell me what their numbers are. And the VP of sales would tell him, and he would say, I could tell you, or you could tell me exactly where they're going to be by the end of the year. And the guy said, yeah, that's where they usually are. And he said, yeah, because that's their paradigm. That's what they're programmed to do. So you could have a really great month, 1 month, and then the next month, to even things out, not so great of a month, right? Or you could start off really, really slow, but your paradigm is at a certain level. So the end of the month, you kick in gear and you get back up to where you're supposed to be. And it's because your paradigm is controlling what your results are. So, how do you change your paradigm? Well, you need to understand, again, like I just said, that your paradigm is nothing but a multitude of habits. So the habits, they're fixed in your subconscious mind. Um, Consciously, you might say, I'm going to change this, but subconsciously, and that's where your ego lives, your subconscious mind controls 96 to 98% of everything that you do and everything that you think. Okay. So if it's fixed in the subconscious mind, it expresses itself automatically. All right. So what you're going to do is you're not going to try and change a bunch of stuff all at one time. Just take one or maybe two ideas at a time. All right. Because if you try and do a bunch of stuff at a time, it's just not going to work. So you pick one or two ideas and then you start to reprogram yourself. So let's say, suppose you like to sleep in, but you want to get up early. And if that's one of the things that you want to change, and that's part of the paradigm, a new one that you want to build, you say, I want to wake up before my alarm goes off. Okay. Your subconscious mind will start waking you up before your alarm goes off, right? How long is it going to take to make the change? I don't know, maybe 30, 60, 90 days. It depends how consistent you are with it. All right. And that's not very long. You say every morning when I wake up, I'm going to get up, right? As soon as I wake up, I'm going to get up. I'm not going to hit the snooze. I'm going to get out of bed, put my feet on the floor, and I'm going to get up. This was one of the things that I've recently changed about myself. I like to get up early, start my day. I get up, have a cup of coffee before I get my day started. You give yourself that message before you go to sleep. And as you start dozing off, your subconscious mind is actually wide open, right? So this is a great time to be able to reprogram yourself, right? So now the subconscious mind, it's something like a little army, right? It always follows your command. So if you say, I'm going to wake up, and when I wake up, I'm going to get up just before you go to sleep. And you're going to keep doing it. And in about 60 days, that idea is going to be fixed in your subconscious mind, right? So what happens is that old idea is dead and it just falls away. And I know that if you've ever changed anything in your life, you might think, oh, I used to do this. Oh, that's not even a part of me anymore. I don't even think about that stuff anymore. I used to do this or I used to do that. That's not even me anymore, right? How it happens is that old idea will just drop dead of lack of nourishment because you're not thinking about it, right? So your paradigms, they're expressed through your actions. Another one might be, it could be that you want to quit smoking. It could be, that you want to dress differently. It could be that you want to be better in your relationship. So think of two things that you would like to change and have different results in your life. And, write those things down and write the person that would have that result. What would they be doing? How would they feel? How would they think? And every night before you go to bed, think what that person would think. And every morning when you get up, first thing you need to think about is that is the person that you are. And throughout the day, every 3 or 4 hours, remind yourself, because I guarantee you, your ego and your old paradigm, they will kick in. Okay. So you can change the results that you have in your life. And I'll tell you, it's not easy, but it can be done. All right. Missy T signing off. Have a great day.